time is actually up, to be honest, and I fully realize tomorrow is a working day, and rightfully speaking I should get into Masa'ib, but if you allow me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what I would like to do is catch up just a little bit on where we left off yesterday, so that tomorrow inshallah we have a starting point from which we can continue and we are all on the same page. I am going to have to make a change in the synopsis in light of all these additional clarifications that I've had to do. Last night, as I began discussing all the reasons for which the Shia are not easily accepted as being part of the mainstream Islam and seen as a separate group, I said that there are 3 different categories in which you can place all these misconceptions. One was things, or these differences. One was misconceptions and lies, things that are said about the Shia that are simply untrue, that we talked about last night. The second were the differences we have that are strongly opposed by many of our Sunni brethren that are in our ahkam, in our fiqh. And then the third was theology. Now, unfortunately, because last night as well I told you, in terms of the content and where I want to take you in this discussion, I'm already behind by 2 lectures, and now I'm behind by 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to discuss the differences in fiqh and ahkam. Some of these are very important, and when you look on the internet, the discussions are very passionate, and I would have loved to do this, but I will leave them if we have time at the end. By some miracle I run out of material, then inshallah we will cover it at the end. But I will tell you at a high level what the issues were that I was going to discuss. On the matters of ahkam, I was going to discuss the zawaj mut'ah. The Shias have a concept of a fixed term marriage, and this is very strongly opposed by our Sunni brethren, that this is just nothing but a legalized form of sin. So I was going to discuss this with some level of detail. The other issue was the Shias don't fold their hands in prayers or do wudu differently. The other is that the Shias prostrate on a turba, or the Shias worship this turba of Hussein, and so on. The other was that the Shias join their prayers Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha, so they only pray 3 times a day, they don't pray 5 times. The other, which is again very sensitive, is the issue of tatbir and zanjir, and you'll see a lot of pictures, videos going around of Shias beating themselves and so on and so forth. The other is the issue that Shias use names that suggest shirk, like Abdul Hussein and Abdul Nabi and so on, and you can only be the Abd of Allah. This is mostly coming from a Salafi Wahhabi perspective. There are many Sunnis who have names like Abdul Nabi and so on. So this would have taken a good part of our lecture discussing all these, and there is a lot of information in our books as well to respond to this that inshallah you can look for if we never get to it. I was also going to discuss at length that the Shias are accused of loving Ali bin Abi Talib excessively and with an exaggerated love, and I was going to, at a very high level mention all the popular verses of Quran and ahadith not in our books, but in Sunni authentic sources regarding Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam, just to show that his maqam and his eminence far, far exceeds that of any Sahaba, and that is why he is not one of the Sahaba, but he is from the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And the Sunni Muslims as well have a special title for him, uniquely, him and him alone. They use a suffix for him, karramallahu wajha, and they said the reason for everyone else is radiyallah, may Allah be pleased with him, but for Ali, may Allah brighten his face, ennoble it, is because he is the only Sahaba who never prostrated before an idol, before Islam. So there are so many ayats and so many ahadith. I mean, just when I bulleted them, they were like 50, and I haven't even touched, the tip of the iceberg here. But many of these come from Sunni sources, and yesterday I mentioned as well that at an individual level there has been amazing cooperation between the Shias and the Sunni ulama. We are talking of differences now at a communal level. To say at a communal level we are missing some ingredients, but when you talk at an individual level, there has been a lot of works that Shias have borrowed from Sunnis and Sunnis have borrowed from Shias. So for example, even today, if you look at the tafsir of Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi, if you look at the tafsir of Allama Tabatabai and all, you will find that there is copious references and commenting on the views of Fakhruddin Razi and Zamakhshari and Ghazali and Suyuti and Ibn Kathir and so on. Right? So, and when we begin to talk of Tafsir al-Manar and Muhammad Abdu and Rashid Rida and how they were influenced by a Shia Jamaluddin Afghani and so on, you will begin to see how this sort of cooperation has always existed. One of the things that many Shias don't know is that many of the Sunni scholars sacrificed their lives for the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. As an example, there is Imam Nasa'i. Imam Nasa'i has a Sunan, which is one of the Sihah Sitta. Out of the 6 authentic books, one of them is called the Sunan Nasa'i. If you look into how did Imam Nasa'i die, and he is considered to be a shaheed of the Ahlul Bayt, is because he went to Damascus, and he found in Damascus the people had been poisoned by Muawiyah so much that they hated Ali bin Abi Talib excessively. He was very disturbed by this, so he compiled a book on the excellences and fada'il of Ali bin Abi Talib. Then he went up on the pulpit and he began reading this ahadith of the Prophet in fada'il of Ali bin Abi Talib. And the Syrians were really offended by this. So they said to him, why don't you recite the fada'il of Muawiyah? He said, I don't know of any, this is Imam Nasa'i, it's not a Shia. He says, I don't know of any fadail of Muawiyah except the hadith of the Prophet that said, La ashba Allahu batna Muawiyah. May Allah not satiate the belly of Muawiyah. And the reason is because there is a hadith that says that one day when Abdullah ibn Abbas was young, the Prophet ﷺ told Abdullah ibn Abbas, go call Muawiyah for me. So he went and Muawiyah said, tell the Prophet I'm eating. So he came back and he said, Muawiyah says he's eating. Then the Prophet said again, go call Muawiyah for him. He went, he came back, he said, Ya Rasulullah, Muawiyah says he's eating. So the Prophet said, oh Allah, may his belly never be full or satiated. And history records that Muawiyah would eat and eat and eat until he'd get tired, but he wouldn't be satiated. So Imam Nasa'i tells the Syrians, I don't know of any fadail of Muawiyah except this one hadith of the Prophet, that may Allah never fill the belly of Muawiyah. And they said, is there nothing else that you can say about Muawiyah? And some reports say he told them, if Muawiyah makes it to salvation, that will be his fada'il. So they were so upset, they pulled him down from the pulpit, they beat him with sticks until he died, or they injured him severely and he died from those injuries. Now, it's easy to say this, but it takes tremendous amount of courage to go to a place like Damascus in those days and ascend the pulpit. You're now in the lion's snare, and to read the fada'il of Ali in front of the enemies of Ali, and then to criticize Muawiyah in this way, like he was asking for death, right? So we've had these sort of sacrifices, and we need to acknowledge that. But one of the points we're trying to drive towards is to say, love of Ali, love of Ahlul Bayt is very important, but equally important is to consider their aqidah and their fiqh as well, because there are solutions for the Muslim ummah in the aqaid and the fiqh of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, which to a large extent has not been appreciated by the Muslim community. They have focused on the spirituality, the akhlaq, the adab, the hadith of the Imams alayhimus salam. Imam al-Shafi, for example, when he heard that those who love the Ahlul Bayt were being called Rafidi, 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 he composed poetry in which he says, In kana rafdan hubbu ali Muhammad. If rafd, or being a dissident, is the love of Ali Muhammad, فَلْيَشْهُدِ الثَّقَلَانِ أَنَا رَافِضِي. Then let the universe bear witness, I am a Rafidi. This is Imam Shafi, one of the founder of the 4 schools. And you know, Shaheed Professor Halil Džafer, my favorite poet, perhaps after Mir Anis, I mentioned some of his words the previous night. He has this poetry that starts with Makr aur khud numa'i ka is daur mein jab na malum ho ajnabi kaun hai. In that he has a verse referring to these words of Imam Shafi. He says, Hum to hai rafidi aur ghali magar. Hum to hai rafidi aur ghali magar. Tum batao ke ye Shafi'i kaun hai. So he is pointing to this fact that there was tremendous love, and I have so many other traditions here that I cannot get to right away. So what we are asking for and driving towards is that we need to acknowledge the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam not just as people of high respect and knowledge, but divine leaders and rightful heirs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And I want to end by saying that, and this is no exaggeration, you can take this as a concept and go test it yourself. The difference between the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and the Sahaba is this: that if you remove the Sahaba's contribution, it changes things but not as much. But if you remove the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, then the history of Islam collapses. If you look at the contributions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, you look at the contribution of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in all the battles, for example. In the battle of Uhud, Allah protects His Prophet, but He protects it through a means. If Ali was not there, the Prophet would have been assassinated. In the battle of Khandaq, when Amr ibn Abd Wud crossed the trench, and hadith, riwayat said that the Sahaba were sitting so still, it was like there was a bird on their head. It was Ali who saved Islam that day. At Khaybar, many of the Sahaba went and could not bring victory. It was Ali who brought victory. You look at the night of Hijrah, you have a perfect example where you have Abu Bakr as a Sahaba journeying with the Prophet to Medina, and you have Ali alayhi salam sleeping in the bed of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, a Sunni Muslim might argue that the sacrifices and contributions of Abu Bakr in journeying with the Prophet were great. Undoubtedly they were great. But if you argue on that basis, that undoubtedly they were great. However, if Abu Bakr had not gone with the Prophet would still have migrated to Medina. But what would have happened if Ali would not have slept in the bed of the Prophet? Right? There were many Sahaba who gave in and pledged bay'ah to Yazid. But if Hussein would have pledged bay'ah, things would have been very different in Islam today. So the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, what we're trying to demonstrate is that they were chosen by Allah, and they have a very special place in Islam, and they have a role to play, not just as an adornment to make Muslims look eminent, that they have such high respect and love for the family of their Prophet, but to be the true interpreters of the Quran, to be the heirs and the warith of the knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ, and to guide the Ummah. One of the things I will address a few nights after, when I come to the Khilafah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and this is very important, is that what is the difference between hereditary imamah and a dynastic rule or a monarchy or nepotism? You see, the Banu Umayyah, Banu Abbas, they all went father, son, father, son, father, son. Up to today, when you look at the Al Saud, it's within a family, and the Arabs, they use this idea of a family that rules. Now, someone can throw this back at us and say, when you look at your imams, it's the same thing. It's father, son, father, son, father, son. What is the difference? There is some fundamental difference between this concept and that concept, and inshallah, I will get to that. What I had really hoped to do tonight was to talk about, when we say adala and imama, what do we mean when we say the Shias have adala and imama, and these are missing ingredients in Islam, and these can help improve the ummah, and this can insulate us from radicalism? What do we mean by that? You see, I spent a good, and I'm coming to a conclusion, I spent a good part of today just tormenting myself over this thought, that why is it that I have been saying all these nights that the Shia concept of adala and imama can help insulate the ummah from radicalization, but my audience is interpreting this to mean that the Sunni Muslims have something in them that make them prone to radicalization. And when I began thinking, why is this being misunderstood, I came to the conclusion the reason is because I haven't yet introduced what I mean by adala and imama. And that's why I wanted to do it tonight in connection to what I presented earlier. So inshallah, if you're still not satisfied with the answer, bear with me until tomorrow night. Allow me to explain what is unique about the concept of justice in Tashayyu and what is unique about the concept of imama in Tashayyu. And you will, I hope, immediately see why I keep saying that this can help the ummah of Islam. If you can recite as-salawat ala Muhammad.